Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Izzo, and oh man, do we have a great show for you. He's back. Yes, he is. Barry Habib. He is broad. Oh, he's going to bring it. I'm just telling you, he's going to bring it, man. I love this book. Okay, Money in the Streets. I keep this book with me at all times. I think it is important that you have a book that you can refer to that encourages you, that motivates you, that moves you, that gives you advice, that, you know what? I think he calls it the BH. I think it's the BH plan about advice. And you know what? That's what this is. Oh, what's the BH? Never mind. Teenagers don't always like listen to you or receiving advice, but Barry has a plan. All right. Listen, Money in the Streets is more than just a story of Barry's life, which is amazing. Money in the Streets is a book about you being successful in life, in business, in sales, and financially. Because you know what? That's what he represents. And he's going to share with you more insights today. That's why we brought him back, because he's that good. He's that kind of a guy. And I've learned to love him to pieces. But before we get him, let's do what we do every week, right? And let's get you through your 4 areas of your life. We're checking in this week, right? We are 4 people: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual people. And we're checking in to see how well we are growing. You know, Barry makes a point in the book, actually. He says, you know what, if you're not growing, you're dying. He really does say that. And it's really true. I mean, listen, we can tell you that as we age, right, things are just not the same. And if you do not do the things that you need to do, you are going to die, and die a faster death. I'm just telling you, it's true. And it's true physically, it's true mentally, it's true emotionally, and it's true spiritually. So let's check in. Physically, on a scale of 1 to 10 out there in the world, how would you rate yourself in terms of your exercise, your eating right, your drinking enough water, getting enough sleep? That's just to name a few. There are all sorts of things that contribute to your life physically. How would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being miserable, 10 being outstanding, right? Now listen, it doesn't matter what the number is. That's okay. We just want to have a starting point that we can get better. That's really the bottom line, okay? So whatever that number is, it's okay. We're going to get better from there. And then you need to think, well, what can I do to get better right away, right? Maybe it's, you know, I could put down the chips, you know, or maybe it's, I could take that extra minute of walk. You know, I could walk the dog an extra time, or I could walk the cat if you walk cats. I don't know anybody that does, but maybe you do. All right. But whatever it is, you know, maybe it would be, I need to go to bed earlier, right? Maybe that's what it needs for you, right? You know what? I'm not drinking enough water. Well, okay, good. Then let's. I thought
you were gonna say you're drinking enough alcohol. That's
what. Yeah, well, yeah. Listen, we know what kind of problems, right? When we, by the way, overindulgence is a physical issue, right? If we're drinking too much, right? I mean, this is another issue. And Barry makes a great point. Sometimes when we overindulge, well, we know what happens. What happens when you overindulge? The next day, you're not feeling very good, and you can't be productive. Right? Which, by the way, affects your brain, because you have brain fog because you've overindulged, which is the mental side on a scale of 1 to 10, right? What are you doing to actively enhance your knowledge? What are you actively doing to reading and pursuing and growing in every area of your life? Have you thought about reading this book? This book would help you grow in the mental side of your life. It would help you be better. What are you doing to grow in wisdom and knowledge and understanding in what you do and in your life? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself? Listen, I have no problem with you doing audiobooks. I do audiobooks. I've written 4 books and I have audiobooks, right? But you know what you need to do with an audiobook is you need to take notes so that you write it down and so that it gets ingrained into your brain. All right? Really good tip. All right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your mental? All right, same scale. All right, so you got 2 numbers. Third number is the emotional number. And we evaluate the emotional number on 2 levels. One is how well are you able to control your emotions under stress and exhaustion, and when you're under fire, right? That's the first part. The second part is how are you able to tap into the emotions of other people and truly understand them, which requires listening. Matter of fact, Barry in his book talks about the key to really every success is communication. And it's not just talking, it's also listening and understanding. And sometimes it's you know, having people finding out for people what their most difficult challenge is. Maybe it's what's the pain, so that you could be the person who solves that pain. He kind of talks about that too. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself emotionally? And then finally, the spiritual area. And spiritual area, you know what? Listen, we all have faith in something. We all do. When things go bad, you run to something, and whatever that first thing you run to, that's probably your God, because you believe it's going to work. When you're in the midst of chaos, when you're in the midst of trouble, when you're in the midst of pain, whatever you first run to, that's the thing that you believe in. That's the thing that you believe is going to solve the problem, right? There's two questions. One is, how's it working for you? And then what do you need to change it or make it better? And how would you rate yourself on that scale? Right? It doesn't matter if it's God or nature or meditation, whatever you choose. Is it working? And how well would you rate yourself on it? Right? So those are your 4 areas. Those 4 areas are like the legs of a chair. If the legs of a chair are uneven, your posture's bad. And when your posture's bad, you know what happens? You're going to walk funny and you just can't live life like you should live it. And you're not living it to the full. If the chair is too low, you're not eating at the height that you need from that table to give you all those nutrition spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally that you need. And so we need to bring those all at the same time. And speaking of someone who does that, and he does that well, his name is Barry Habib. He's an American entrepreneur and frequent media resource for his mortgage and housing expertise. He's got an Amazon #1 bestseller right here. It's called Money in the Streets. His frequent appearances are on CNBC and Fox. He is the CEO of MBS Highway, the industry's most highly regarded and recognized tool for transforming salespeople into advisors. He is a 3-time Crystal Ball Award winner by Zillow and Pulsenomics, and in the most accurate real estate forecast for the most accurate real estate forecasts out of 150 in the top economists in the US. I know people are going to be going, you could ask him real estate questions, but that's not really part of the show, but we met. 2019 Mortgage Professional of the Year, finalist for the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, named the esteemed Mortgage Global 100 list for 2021 by Mortgage Professionals. He is an innovator. He's founded successful businesses, the Mortgage Market Guide, Healthcare Imaging Solutions, Certified Mortgage Associations, founding partner in Social Survey. He has personally originated over $2 billion in sales, and he is also the lead producer and managing partner for Rock of Ages, the 27th longest running show in Broadway history. He's an amazing man. He is an amazing human being, and he's loving, he's kind, and I'm telling you, you're going to enjoy him. So please welcome him back to the show, and welcome back to A New Direction, Barry Habib. Welcome, Barry.
Jay, thank you so much. I appreciate you, my friend. We've become good friends over the last few weeks and months, and I truly appreciate you and the great job that you do. And shout out to my good friend, our good friend, right, Paul Fitz, who definitely who put us together. So we appreciate you too, Paul.
Yeah, we do. And I was going to make mention that, this our relationship kind of happened because of Paul Fitz. And of course, he's not in studio with me this time, but he is out there watching and listening. And I think his wife, Joelle, is doing the same thing right now too. I haven't checked, but I believe that she is doing that as well. So we left off last time. We talked about your story, of course, and we got into a few things that in the book, but there were some things that I really felt that we left on the table that I wanted to pick up from. And one of the things is this very idea that I talked about, living and dying at the very big, which is in chapter 9, is we got to keep evolving, which is the title of your chapter. And you say no living thing stay still. They either grow or die. And if you want more fulfillment as part of your financial success, you must continue to grow. Even if you're good, you must continue to get better. So let's talk about growth and what that means to you, and what that means in terms of how we do that in terms of being a business owner or a salesperson or whatever we are in your case in life.
So you mentioned earlier, you talked about aging, right? And I guess kind of jokingly, the connotation is that as we age, that things change, but does that mean that it has to get worse? It actually could get better, right? You can continuously make yourself better, and maybe it's in different ways, but there are constant ways that we need to improve. Kaizen is Japanese for, never ending the desire to improve. So that's what we want to try and do with ourselves. And what it also allows us to do is it allows us to change the lives of other people because we have something to offer. I think that that's what fulfillment's all about is it's a lot of really successful people. There's a lot of very wealthy people, but they're missing that other aspect of it, which is fulfillment, which is really when you are helping others, that gives you a real sense of purpose, and it gives you a more rounded approach, and it makes it more valuable to hit those goals because you're doing it not just for you, you're doing it for yourself and others.
So you make a really big deal about the sales process, that it's really not about the hard sell.
Oh no.
You have in there a process when it comes to selling, and I think it's important that regardless of what we do, we're all selling, right? I mean, even on this show, I am selling. I'm
Yeah, but
trying.
what we want to do, Jay, is we want to understand that nobody wants to be sold. I mean, none of us like being sold, and I think that you really cross that bridge when you make the change from, instead of looking out for what is best for you, that you truly put your best interest and your commission aside, and you try and empathize with the person that you're working with, and try and think about what's best for them. And if you can do that, the whole world changes, because if you think about, just think about a couple of things here. One is, in South America, there's these spider monkeys. They're very, very valuable, and they're very difficult to capture. And what the hunters decided to do is, these animals are nocturnal, meaning they only come out at night, is they take a big heavy box and they ventilate it with the spider monkey's favorite food. Then they take a tiny little slit, just enough for the monkey to put their hand in there, because the monkeys find it. They're very smart. They find the slit. But when they grab the food and they try and take it out, they are unable to get their hand out of it because their clenched fist can't get through the slit. And instead of just letting go of the food, they hold on to it so desperately that the hunters pick them up. Now, they could have the freedom they desire just by letting go. And what's really important in the sales process is, the first thing you do is you have to let go. Listen, I learned how to juggle, and believe it or not, there's these people called juggling instructors. And one of the first things that I learned how to do was let the balls drop, because you have to understand that not everyone is going to be your customer. Not every transaction is going to come through. And that came from, if you want to be a good juggler, you're not going to catch every ball. And if you're too worried about catching every ball, you'll never be relaxed enough to be a good juggler. And, we're so perceptive as human beings. If we feel we're being sold and it's insincere, our defense mechanism kicks in, and we're going to become much more skeptical. Are they telling me that because it's what I want to hear? Or are they telling me that because it's real? The idea is to treat every client as if they're your parent, your child, your best friend. And what you're trying to do for them is look out for them and give them advice. And a lot of that comes from being vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to tell them all the stuff that's bad. Give them advice. Don't give them the propaganda. Don't pitch them. Advise them. Back when we had the Cold War between the United States and Russia, you had Ronald Reagan and you had Mikhail Gorbachev. And there's a great story where Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev were at odds. Obviously, this is sensitive stuff. And it got heated. And Ronald Reagan actually gets up from the meeting, walks out, but then comes right back in, extends his hand to Mikhail Gorbachev and says, "Hi, I'm Ronald. Let's start over." And then what he asked Mikhail Gorbachev to do was go for a walk. And here you have two leaders of the world walking together, looking in the same direction, not against each other, but facing the same way. It was brilliant. And that was the beginning of the end of the Cold War. And I think that this, Jay, is what we need to understand, that if we forget sales for a minute, you want better relationships with the person you love, with your kids, with your family, your coworkers, try and see it from their point of view. Try and understand what they're seeing and be vulnerable. Don't just tell them what they want to hear, or don't tell them what's in your best interest. First, put their best interests forward. And then the world changes, because that's where trust is established. And I think trust is the most important thing in any relationship. At least I believe that.
I also going to say as wow, because I'm just speechless, because that was amazingly beautiful. And you led me right into chapter 10, building trust and better relationships through excellent communication. And you say communication is the lifeblood of everything.
Yeah, because how many problems in the world would be solved if we could just understand each other and communicate? But sometimes when things get escalated and we get emotional, it's hard to hear the message and it's hard to articulate our message. Let's remember that. What is communication? So, Jay, this is an idea that I have in my brain that it took me a while perhaps to formulate. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to transmit that to your brain so you understand me. And what many people do is they arrive at this destination and they give the finished result to the person without the benefit of walking them through why they came to this conclusion. So initially, the result in trying to put it in somebody else's brain may be rejected. It may be pushed back. But if I, in a much shortened version, certainly, at least try to walk them through the key reasons why I have arrived at this, then when I plant the seed, the ground is much more fertile. And that's what you want to do. You can't grow things in a desert. You have to try and get the ground a bit more fertile. And you talked about the BH technique. It's not just because it's my initials. It's the BH technique is something that, if you think about, you mentioned it, Jay, unwanted advice is resented.
Right.
And, just think about, telling a teenager what to do, or even the other people what to do. Don't have to be a teenager, but if somebody were to come up to us and just give us advice, I mean, who the frig are you to tell me that? How do you know what's going on with me for you to just come up and tell me what to do? You got me figured out that quickly. But if you begin by asking questions, the Socratic method of teaching is teach by asking questions. So if you were to ask questions first and really take an interest, then you can refer back and you could use the BH technique, which is B is for because you said this, H, here's what might work for you. Or here's what's worked for me. Or here's something that you should think about. It's a much more gentle and the reception is going to be much more welcome because you've done the work beforehand. You're not arriving and so you're not just, oh, this is just blanket. This is what I think you should do from my few seconds of observing you. This is by asking questions, by learning, by trying to understand you. Now I'm able to suggest something, not tell you what to do, but because you said this, here's what might work.
Right. Yeah, I love this the BH technique. I forget it, and when I forget it, sometimes it gets me in huge trouble. I've noticed when I've used it, it has been awesome. Even online, by the way, in online conversations, because you said this, whatever it might be, here's what might be of help. Because sometimes, even as a psychological professional, my intention is to help, but that's not the way it's taken. And so what happens is people just think I'm just pushing my advice on them, and that's really not what I was trying to do. But it's sometimes how you phrase it that's just so important. And I thought that your technique of the BH technique, and I never thought about it being the initials of your name, quite honestly, but it's not, now I'm never going to forget it. But it really is a great way to bridge that gap to be helpful. I think more than anything.
And that's what it is. If you come from a place of trying to truly help, right? If that's what your real intention is, a lot of people give advice because they want to put somebody down or they want to be critical or they are annoyed, it's harder to have that message received. But if you genuinely want to be helpful and you genuinely want to be empathetic, just put yourself in that position. How would you feel if somebody were telling you what to do? The message could be good, but the delivery is also really important.
Right. Yeah, no, totally agree. You said that there's a second way to build trust, but it may feel kind of rude, I think is what you put it, but it's highly effective. And this goes really contrary to anything that we think is tell the other party all the bad stuff. What?
Yeah. Be vulnerable. Yeah. Like I said, treat someone like they're your parent, child, best friend, and tell them all the bad stuff. Listen, if you screwed up, tell them you screwed up. If you think that something is inferior, tell them it's inferior. If it's a customer that you're dealing with, then point out all the things that they should be concerned with. That if I'm telling you all of these wonderful things, you're going to become more skeptical. If I'm just selling you features and positives, you'll probably be searching for what's the catch, what's wrong with this. Let me tell you what's wrong with it so you don't have to search for it. I bet you believe me a lot more if I'm telling you all the negatives, because in the end, I don't want to sell you. In the end, I really want what's best for you. And what's best for you is what I could provide. Well, then everybody wins. Then you're happy. Then I'm happy. The expectation's set. But if I'm just trying to sell you and you find out that, there are things that were lacking or things that I should have disclosed to you, you'll think about this, somebody who's, and this goes back to, I was very blessed. One of my mentors is a guy by the name of Jim Camp, rest his soul. And Jim Camp wrote a great book called Start With No. And Jim Camp was the head recruiter for Ohio State football team, but he was also a top FBI hostage negotiator. And for whatever reason, God put him in my life, and I was lucky enough to learn from Jim. And Jim took a liking to me, and he really taught me many lessons when it came to negotiation. And what we want to understand in the negotiation process is that it's important to be vulnerable here. It's important to tell them all the bad things that are part of this, because you'll be more trusted. It'll be something where people will believe you. If I'm just trying to sell you all the great stuff, you'll be skeptical. But if I say, well, here's what's really good, but here's the things that aren't so good about this. What happens is overall, if my proposition is going to be close to somebody else's proposition, even if it's not as good, they'll probably choose the person that they trust more. People will innately sacrifice either features or price if they felt better about the person that they're buying from, that person is more trustworthy. Because in the end, that's what it comes down to. Because maybe somebody else may sound better, but I don't know if I'm getting all that.
Right.
I trust you more. And as long as it's pretty close, even if it's not as good, I'll sacrifice so I can go with someone that I trust more. And that, listen, that's relationships too, man. That's people will stick with a relationship if there's trust, because what's perfect? Nothing's perfect, Jay. Every relationship, what's perfect in life? Life is not about perfect. Life's about choices. Life's about alternatives. And you want to make the best choice. And a huge part of the choice that you make is how much you trust moving forward with that choice.
Yeah. His name is Barry Habib, and that's about as perfect as you can get on this show. The book is called Money in the Streets. You can find it everywhere, and you're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, everybody, listen, speaking of people I trust, I have two sponsors that I trust because I use them and I know them and I really do trust them. It's Epic Physical Therapy is the first one, and it doesn't matter if you have an injury or surgery, you're suffering from everyday aches and pains, if you're just having difficulty performing everyday activities, or it could be that you are a professional athlete or a up-and-coming athlete that's looking to improve how you feel, move. Listen, Epic's going to provide you with a customized treatment plan tailored to your individual needs. They understand the need to not just treat your symptoms, but to treat your body as a functional whole. So listen, when you're ready for your epic relief, when you're ready for your epic recovery, when you're ready for your epic results, look no further. Go to Epic Physical Therapy. It's epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. And Linda Craft and Team Realtors, for over 35 years, they've been at the top of the real estate game. How have they done that for over 35 years? Because of the very thing that Barry just talked about. She understood the power of a relationship and building trust. And she maintains those relationships and has maintained them. Her first client from back in 1985 still comes to see her today. For 35 years. What does that say? It says what her clients say. She's a legend of customer service, and she continues to build and maintain those relationships even today. So when you're ready to start your home journey, regardless if it's selling or buying, start with Linda Craft and Team. It's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with Money in the Streets, and the author of which is Barry Habib, who is, dang, is he powerful. Man, I just want to just sit back and just go, I'm just going to listen to you and not talk for the rest of the show. If I didn't have to do sponsors, I would just let you have this. I would just say, you know what, just go, because I would let you just have it. A thought occurred to me as we're talking about sales, because I get this question a lot, and I'm betting that you do too, but you can answer this question, is whether it's B2B or B2C, does it really matter? Or is there truly a difference between B2B sales and B2C sales?
Yeah, listen, a lot of the principles are the same, of course, but there's a big difference in that when you're doing B2B sales, what you have to contemplate is that there's really two sales involved. And the first sale is the way that it should always start. Remember, nothing happens in a transaction until a sale is made. Nothing happens with a product, nothing until a sale is made. So I've created a lot of products. I've started a lot of businesses, and I always think about the end transaction first. So in the mortgage industry, for me, even though my customer might be the mortgage company, the mortgage originator, the first thing I'm thinking about is the sale to the borrower. Even though I'm not involved in that transaction, it's the loan professional and the borrower. And now if I'm thinking about that, then my desire to help that loan professional become more effective and provide better resources to the borrower, that's the way I'm making my sale to that loan professional. It's always with the end transaction in mind. In every sale, whether it's B2B or B2C, think about how that sale comes to be. A lot of people worry about process, and it's important. A lot of people worry about features or functions or whatever it is. Every aspect is important, but nothing happens until a sale's made. So if we are focused on that end sale, that's what we're looking at first, then we're in a position where we can be more effective. And really, that's what's most important. I mean, I know people talk about time management. That's a joke. I mean, the clock ticks. I don't know how to stop it. It's going to tick. I cannot manage it. Whatever I do does not manage it. The only thing I can do is use the same time that we all have more effectively. And that's the difference. The difference is, how can you be more effective with the time that you have? How can you not waste time? Because it's the most valuable commodity. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. Look, that second that just passed, you're never going to get it back.
Right.
You can always make more money, but you can't get back the time that you're investing. So if you could be more effective with the time you have, if you can amplify your message to more people, if you can get more results by using the same amount of time, that's what propels people. That's what makes the difference. We all wake up, have the same amount of time, all go to bed. It's what did we do in between? That's what's really key. And how effective were we with that? So that's really the change that I've seen, where someone goes from linear steps to exponential steps.
You had the privilege of getting to speak with Coach Belichick.
Yeah.
Right. Who has won 6 Super Bowls, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, he's pretty incredible guy.
Right. He's pretty incredible. And, he gave you a lot of great information that apply to business.
Yeah.
And you've already talked about one of them that you've incorporated: listen to your clients carefully, stop selling, advise them. But he talked about not beating yourself.
Yeah.
As a salesperson and a business owner, help us understand about not beating yourself.
Well, I was very blessed and fortunate that I had quite a few interactions with Coach Belichick, and he always talked in football terms, but I always translated into life terms and business terms. And so he was talking with me about the Super Bowl, the day before the Super Bowl against the Rams, and it was Saturday afternoon, and he said, I just want to try and remember to get this exactly the way he said it, but he was talking about that during the game, the Rams might run maybe 50 plays.
Right.
He said, but we're prepared for 300.
Right. Because their entire playbook is 300 plays.
Yeah, exactly. So
he says, run 60. Yeah.
Exactly. He says, we're not going to be surprised. He says, if we're going to lose, it isn't going to be because we beat ourselves.
Right.
And that just kind of took me back for a minute, because I wondered how many of us, we beat ourselves because of a lack of preparation, because we narrow it, we try and take shortcuts. Let's not beat ourselves because of that, because that's awful. It's awful to be better and you beat yourself, because how many times does that happen to us? We feel like we were better than that person, or we were better qualified for this, or we were but we beat ourselves because we didn't put the time in and we didn't put the effort in. Look, Jay, I've been speaking professionally for many, many years, more years than I want to admit. But as a professional speaker, I don't ever take it for granted. I am constantly trying to refine, learn, and do better. I think it's really important that we're in a constant mode of improvement,
Right.
and preparation, regardless of how good we are.
Yep.
Because listen, somebody's going to come and try and take that spot. There are competitors out there that are hungry, and we have to remain hungry. We have to remain sharp.
Right.
And this is, you have to almost fool yourself into being almost to the point where you're in starvation mode.
Yep.
And this is really key, because if you're in a mental starvation mode and you're constantly trying to approach things from that position instead of being, fat and happy and satisfied, your performance will show that. And listen, you could always do better. And I'm not saying that this should be a 24/7 work approach. Okay. That's with everything. You should be focused like that in your relationships. How many relationships maybe get stale because it's good to be comfortable, but to be too comfortable is one thing, right?
Right.
Why take that special nature out of a relationship, or out of a romance, or out of your relationship with your kids or your coworkers or whomever? I mean, isn't it great to always be in a mode where, it's like it was in the beginning,
Right.
where you really wanted to put your best foot forward? Why don't you always put your best foot forward?
Right.
Why does it have to be in the beginning?
Right. No, listen, I think there is, at least my strategy has always been, I'm not good enough. And it sounds worse than what it really is, but I know that if I don't find ways to improve what I do, right? If I'm not, you talk about a professional boxer, you literally say this: a professional boxer trains 1,000 minutes for every minute in the ring. And that really got my attention.
And I say, Jay, how many minutes are you training? And think about this before you get on that phone call with a customer.
Right.
Before you talk to that client, did you just pick up the phone and wing it? Or are you super sharp, prepared, rehearsed with so much information that you're going to blow that person away, and so much knowledge and wisdom? Because in 2021, information's everywhere, but advice is still extremely valuable commodity.
Right.
And if you could show wisdom and advice because you put the time in,
right,
that's critical. That professional boxer is training 1,000 minutes for every 1 minute in the ring. My question to you is, before you speak to that client, how many minutes did you train before you pick up the phone and talk to them?
This is so true. I tell people this all the time. People think, you do an hour show. I probably work between 10 and 15 hours to do this one show. Not to mention the training that I do in between, studying like Larry King, Johnny Carson, and their techniques of how they interview people and what made them so special as interviewers.
Jay, I am blessed and lucky that I get a lot of interview requests, a lot that I agree to do. You're amongst the best and the most prepared, and it shows. It totally shows. And, while it's wonderful for you, the real beneficiary is your audience, because you're giving them the most value, because after all, they're taking their valuable time to tune into you. And what you're really doing by all that work is showing them the respect that you care so much about them, that you're honoring their time and you want to make their time valuable. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Jay, you really hit home with me when you said not good enough, because that's the way, for me, that's a very sensitive area. I talk about it in the book a little bit, but it's even hard for me to talk about because, I grew up feeling that way, and it's something that, it's hard to deal with, but at the same time, it drives you to always want to be better too.
Right. Well, and I think, the other lesson that you got from Coach Belichick was, you got to keep your ego in check.
Oh yeah. Having an ego is healthy.
Right.
You need it for you to do what you do. You have to have an ego if you're going to be, having an audience. For me to be either on TV or to get up in front of a large group of people, you have to have an ego. You have to have confidence, but a healthy ego. You know,
Right.
confidence is very different than cockiness. You still need to remain humble,
Right.
and you need to understand. Look, I've always thought about it this way. Just because I have the privilege and the honor and being blessed enough to be on stage and getting to do that doesn't mean I know more than anyone in the audience. I'm sure that I can learn so much from each and every one of them, but there might be an area that I could make a difference for them and help them. And that's all I'm trying to do, is just show them that in a humble way and share with them. And I think that comes across. And the reason why I feel that I always have had a good relationship with my audiences is because I think that they sense that that's genuine, that I'm not better than anyone. I'm not, in certain areas, I put in some time and gained some expertise, and all I'm trying to do is share that with you to help you. That's it.
I love that. Speaking the beauty about this book, by the way, Money in the Streets, Barry Habib, get the book. It's that good. The chapters just roll so smoothly into each other, and it makes my job easier with you.
I have to give credit to a few people on that. So I did write the book. I didn't have any ghostwriters, all me. And I did the audio book too. But the mapping of the book, so I was very lucky. Luck is such an important thing. I'm a very spiritual person. So, right. I believe that, that God does things in a way that if you just try and listen to the universe. So Randy Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg's sister, who created Facebook Live, I was blessed and fortunate to become friends with her. She wrote the foreword in the book too. So right. It's pretty amazing. So her and Tony Robbins. And when she was going to write the foreword, and she read the book, and I just asked her for advice. And because she's written several books, and she said, my sister, Donna Zuckerberg, she's a book doctor. So what the hell's a book doctor? It's my first book. I don't know what the heck this stuff is, right?
Right.
So now my editor, Hillary Jastrom, who is phenomenal. If you're ever thinking of writing a book, I couldn't recommend someone. And I have to also give a lot of credit to my son, Dan Habib. Dan helped me so much with just being a great sounding board for me. And he edited a lot of things with me, because editing is interesting. You could be good. I'm good at editing other people's work, but your own work, you're going to see something and make the same mistake over and over and over. I'm sure you know this, Jay, because you're very experienced at this. I had no experience. So so all these people deserve a tremendous amount of credit. But yeah. Donna Zuckerberg, she was great. She did not make edits, but she said, Barry, I think this story has to go here before this and before that. And look, I pride myself as a professional speaker of being pretty darn good at telling stories and bringing things together. But a book's different. There's so much in this that, she was 100% right. You need to hear this before you hear that. And she did help me to do that. And I have heard that a lot. So thanks to a lot of these great people, I believe that the book does tell the story in a very nice chronological order.
So when I wrote my first book, like you, I knew nothing. 4 books later, I still don't know as much as I would like to think I would know. But I didn't know there was such a thing as a developmental editor. When you submit 360 pages of a manuscript to someone, you think it's pretty good. You've sat down and you just dropped 360. But then you have somebody developmentally edit it, organizes it, so that all of a sudden you go, well, that's a whole lot better than I thought I was going to do it. It just read so much smoother, and you certainly have done that. And that leads me to chapter 12, because it leads right into win by staying on offense. And which, because here, we just talked about Bill Belichick, and then you've got this chapter on you win by staying on offense. And you talk about having a great plan includes building the right team to help you achieve your goals and participate in ideas and feedback to help your business evolve. So you talk about team building, and you talk about build your team so you can build your empire. And then you talk about the 4 things that you're looking for in people: attitude, aptitude, initiative, and sense of urgency.
Those are 4 key elements. I don't hire people based on experience. I've hired my golf pro. I've hired my limo driver, 2 of them, actually. I hire people when I see attitude, aptitude, initiative, and a sense of urgency. And I truly believe that I can teach you the rest. I really believe that. I believe that individuals who are possessing those four qualities, if they have that good attitude, they're going to play well with others. They positivity is so important. Look, a common thread amongst people who are successful is optimism. So just think about that. Success and optimism go hand in hand. It's very important. Aptitude, well, obviously the lights have to be on, so they have to be able to be pretty good at their ability to understand and learn.
Right.
And then initiative. I can't tell you what to do all the time, right? I'm not. You have to be able to take those steps. And by the way, they're going to make mistakes too. You have to understand that that's a part of it.
Right.
Don't shut people down and make them wait for you. That's when you're going to get bottlenecks. You have to let people make mistakes, and you have to know ahead of time that it's not. I see too many people that are control freaks that can't build an empire because they limit themselves by being control freak. And then a sense of urgency. Look, who doesn't love when you have somebody who's got a sense of urgency? Who doesn't love that? When I'm dealing with somebody and they say, let's knock this out right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love you. That's great. That's just what I want. I don't like when they say, well, we'll get to it in 2 days. We'll do, that's a disappointment to me.
Right.
If somebody says, well, hold on, let's see if we can't get this done right now and resolve this, because my time's valuable. Everyone's time's valuable.
Right.
You make somebody feel like their time is really valuable and important to you. That's going to build a lot of loyalty and trust. And that's going to close a lot of transactions. And that's also going to have them tell others. So if my team all have a sense of urgency, they're going to be a great reflection of me to the customers that I'm trying to win, and to the customers I'm more importantly trying to keep, because that's really what it's all about, right? It's not just winning them, it's keeping them. So these are important things. And then you talked about staying on offense, in sports. Now, I played a lot of sports, I'm sure you did too. Love sports. Sports teaches us so much in life. Sports teaches us so much in business, and there's so many parallels there. So in sports, most teams, they don't score on defense. You want to put points on the board, you need to have the ball. You need to be on offense, right? Certainly in baseball, you have to stay on offense. If you're constantly on defense, meaning taking complaints, now you have to address those, right?
Right.
But you need to put systems in place and build a better widget so that you learn from those and have less of those, so that what you're constantly doing is you're staying on offense. You want to be able to have the systems in place so you're always trying to grow and you're always trying to gain, at the same time protect and keep what you have and keep people happy. But in your day, just take your day. Now look, Jay, here, I'm going to show you, because I eat my own home cooking here. I live off of lists. Now you could be more sophisticated than me, certainly, right?
Right.
But what do? I start each day. It starts the day at the end of a business day. I have my list of what is my plan for tomorrow. What do I have to do? Now that puts me on offense. Okay. Right. Now during the day, you're going to have to play defense as things come in.
Right.
But once I've stopped playing defense for a moment, I look at my list. What's the next thing I can knock out? Let's be on offense for this. Let's do this. Let's knock this out, because I want to dictate the terms of my day. I don't want to be subject to others dictating that for me. I want to stay on offense. I want to make sure that I'm moving forward in my day and achieving my goals, whether they be longer term or shorter term. And really important, you can't achieve your long-term goal without doing it every single day. It takes every single day doing a little bit to get to that long-term goal. You don't just wake up and you've reached the long-term goal without doing the work every day.
Right. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna step away from here, folks. The book's Money in the Streets. The man is Barry Habib. He wrote it. You gotta get it. It's just fantastic. Listen, you're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, listen. Speaking of people that I just really enjoy being around, like Barry Habib. I really enjoy Epic Physical Therapy. And one of the reasons why is that they have this outstanding staff of which is first priority, but they also have all the top of the line advanced equipment, right there, like the Ultra G anti-gravity treadmill, the Normatec depression sleeves, the Game Ready. They're trained and certified in the most comprehensive cutting edge treatments like blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling, cupping. That's just a few. Listen, they can teach you how to make your movement more epic. So when you're ready for your epic relief and your epic recovery and your epic results, start with epicpt.com. That's EPIC-PT.com. And Linda Craft and Team Realtors. That's lindacraft.com, LINDACRAF team.com. I am telling you, they help people all over the world. And the way they can do that is because she's independently owned and operated and not affiliated with any national company. And so she knows the best experts where you live and can help you find the best expert to sell your home and buy your home. She's created those relationships, not just with her own clients, but she's done that with real estate professionals and even mortgage professionals all over the world. So listen, when you're ready to start your home journey, start with Linda Craft and Team Realtors. You can learn more by going to lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction, and we're talking with Barry Habib, Money in the Streets, and we're talking about some really great stuff. I got to tell you, Barry, part two, I mean, part one was pretty good with you. Part two, whew, we are getting into some stuff here. I'm just telling you. I really enjoy it. So you talked to Bill Belichick about his thoughts on hiring, and he said, here's what he looks for in a player. 3 things. You have to be smart, tough, and dependable. And I thought that that's really interesting because those 3 characteristics that he talks about really fits into your 4 pieces.
It does, Jay. And you know what? The thing is that the most important to him was dependable. And just think about that, And when I asked him why dependable, he says, you think about it. He said, if I can count on the person to my right, they're going to be dependable. I don't have to worry about them. And I can count on the person on my left. They're going to be dependable. They're going to do their job. Then I could be more aggressive. And that was like a wow moment for me.
Yeah.
And it makes you think that in your team, do you have weak links in your team? Do you have people that you can't depend on? Because if you have within your company people that you could depend on, that are going to do their job, that are going to be there, then you could be more aggressive. Then you could take some additional risks. Then you can reach higher. Then you could set bigger goals. But if you can't depend on them, then what's happening is that I can't reach forward as much because I have to dedicate my resources to plugging the holes here and here. It's such an important one.
Yeah.
Assess your team, assess your friends, assess the people around you. Can you really depend on them? Because if you can go further.
Yeah.
And believe me, surrounding yourself with great people, that's a real secret and key to life.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with great people.
I just love that. It just stuck out. It was highlighted and bold-faced in my notes. And I was just like, I keep reading it over and over again. I couldn't get enough of it. You have another highlight in the same chapter, and it's let's talk about time and sales. And you say the sales process can be complicated, but at its core, there are 3 phases where we spend our time.
Mm-hmm.
Prospecting, selling, and follow-up.
All 3 are critical. All 3 are absolutely critical. And you could ask someone, it's an interesting question to ask someone. You say, okay, in the sales process, there's 3 aspects of it. There's prospecting, there's selling, and there's follow-up. What's the most important one? And let's understand that none are not important. They're all critically important. But there's only one place that you make money. You only make money one place, and that's selling. Prospecting is critical. You have to build your funnel. But to the extent you can, automate that. Follow-up, critical. You want to provide great support, a great customer experience. And while that helps you preserve and maintain and grow reputation, that's something that you can use a team to help you with. Pick your spots. Spend some time there. Spend some time. But the only place you ring the cash register is selling. And that's where your talents should be focused. I'm not saying to ignore, and I'm not saying to, you have to make sure all 3 are perfect. but you should use automation and replication, meaning team, to cover the others. When it comes to dedicating your activities really should be dedicated primarily towards selling.
You talk about the selling wave, and this is something that I think I see a lot of salespeople and even businesses, that run are in the selling wave. And so talk about
a lot of, yeah. So the wave is like, oh, okay, I do all these sales, and oh shit, I've got all these sales. I've got to stop doing sales and take care of them. And then when I've taken care of them, my sales diminish. Then I've got to go back and build that up. That wave is what most salespeople experience, and it's not very healthy. What you're missing there is you're missing the team. You're missing the systems, whether it be technology, automation, software, or individuals. But you have to invest. You have to invest, and build and solidify, so that as you grow and as you go through those sales processes and you're building that, you have the team that will be able to support that, so you don't have that drop off. You can continue to grow. That's like an S curve. An S curve looks kind of like this. It's not like a real S, but it's kind of flat, then grows, then comes across. Well, linear growth is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but exponential growth is 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. So it's exponential. How do you get to exponential growth? You get there by taking a point of friction and resolving that point of friction. We all have point of friction. That's what most people do, Jay, when they come up to a point of friction, they bitch. Oh shit, somebody should fix that. That's awful. And somebody should, make that somebody you, because if you become the person that fixes it, if you can resolve that, then you will experience exponential growth. That's where most people get lift like that. I'm in the mortgage industry, and the mortgage industry had its best year last year. It's still experiencing a great year because a major point of friction was removed, and that's interest rates got low. But the problem with that is that the market did that. We didn't do it as individuals. Right. See, with me, some of the key things is I noticed in the mortgage business when I was originating, a big problem that people were having was interest rates would change and they would be blindsided. So I said, well, that's a point of friction. How about if I fix it? And I created a company called Mortgage Market Guide, built it, and sold it. And then when I was in the entertainment world, I noticed that people had an unpleasant time when they would come to the theaters because Broadway did not allow drinking in the seats. They'd get there late. It was expensive. By the time that they got there late, got online, got their drink, spent $18 for it, now the show is about to begin. So do I miss the show and have my drink? Do I waste my drink? Do I guzzle my drink? Why did I have to give them an unpleasant experience before the show started? When I said, let's allow them to drink in the seats, the Nederlander Theater said, no, we don't allow that. I said, why? I said, well, because it's never been done before. Well, if you know me, that's not a very good answer for me. So it took me quite a bit, but I hired security, this and that, and convinced them that we should try this and I would be liable for it, and became the first show in the history of Broadway to allow drinking on the seats. And it created this great atmosphere and experience. We had people coming around with shots and this and that. It was like a party atmosphere, and the show took off. And now all of them do it on Broadway. When I got into the medical imaging field, in medical imaging, anxiety really is a problem because the tech knows what's going on. You say, how's it look? At least I do. Many of us do. How's it look? How's it look? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to live? Whatever it is, right? And say, well, your doctor will talk to you about that. I mean, man, you know what it is. I'm not allowed to tell you. Why aren't you allowed to tell me? Well, because of liability, it's not. But if it's a doctor, they can. So why make people wait 4 or 5 days to speak to their doctor? Why give them the anxiety? So what I did was made a radiologist right on site. So by the time you got dressed, if it was great news, you knew right away. If it wasn't the best news, you know what you had? You had a plan, and that was better than the anxiety. Right. So all of those businesses achieved exponential growth simply because what I did was alleviated points of friction in all of those. And it's in every business, in everything you do. If you see a point of friction and you alleviate it, you'll be the beneficiary of exponential growth.
We've got only a couple minutes left here, but I want to just, before I have you give us our new direction, I want to have you talk just a minute about falling in love with your business, because you do make a really big point that whatever business we're in, we need to fall in love with it. Talk about that real quickly.
Yeah. So if you know what falling in love feels like, and I think we all do, it's consuming, it's wonderful. And if you hate your business, nothing that's wrong. It's just like a relationship with somebody. When you're in love, you're happier. And when you feel that special feeling, it makes you want to be better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
At least it is for me. I know I want to be a better man for the woman I love, right? It's important. And if you love your business, then you always want to make it better.
Right.
Then you admire, you care about what other people think. You're proud. So whatever you're doing, if you're not in love with your business, my suggestion to you would be fall in love with the business. Find something that you can fall in love with and really care about it in that way. Or maybe it's time to think about what other possibilities are out there that you could fall in love with. Because I promise you this, if you're in love with your business, you're not working a day in your life. You may be doing difficult tasks. You may be setting big goals that require a lot of effort and energy, but you're not working. You're doing business and you're achieving goals and you're moving forward in a way that will make you proud and give you fulfillment.
I was going to ask you for more, but I'm not going to ask you for any more because that is the perfect place to end the show, because that is brilliant. Because you're right. If we don't fall in love with our business, it's not going to fall in love with us. And yeah, it's beautiful. His name's Barry Habib. The book is titled Money in the Streets. I told you he was going to be awesome. And he was. Holy cow. Folks, listen, you know what? You are in control of two things at all times, regardless of your circumstances, your attitude and your effort, right? All the time. Take advantage of that. You can change it if you want to. And that's within your power every day and every moment. I will be back next week with another great guest and another great book. It's going to be another great show. And as I say to you every week, and you know what that is, shalom.